Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Monday, April 27th. And busy weekend, right? A lot of action going on. The news is blanketed by the assassination attempt, third one at that. So, market, I thought there was going to be a lot more reaction to the downside, but the market is still holding on to the gains, still moving higher. And it's started a nice little grind to the upside in the overnight. So, they're up there, still holding on. Earnings season is upon us, full swing. And of course, we'll see what happens in the Iranian situation. So nothing really changed over the weekend. The news this morning or this week, we have a little bit of news coming out. Today, not much. We've got the Dallas Fed manufacturing service at 10:30. That's about it. And we do have a 2-year and a 5-year auction today. Well, 2-year at 11:30, 5-year at 1. So two auctions today. Tuesday, we get housing data and consumer confidence. Wednesday, we have a bunch of stuff, durable goods, bunch of stuff coming out on Wednesday. Thursday, we have a personal income and outlet read as a PCE read, inflation read. Friday, it's a manufacturing, and Friday is May 1st. So they are on April 30th, last day of April is going to kick in on Thursday. It's going to be the last trading day of the month. There's going to be a little bit of a rebalancing going on there for the month. But that's kind of what lies ahead of us. Right now, going into the trading day, I mean, we did not get a big sell-off on anything like that. So it looks to me like market is still in a pretty good spot to potentially take this higher. So I would start off range bound. I would look to buy weakness still. See how far they want to take this, but this is definitely a pretty good move. You can see here this area they've been trading in back and forth. Yes, Friday broke out of it. We're still holding that, so we'll see if they're going to knock it down. That's the first thing to do here as today's session kicks in. But if they don't, if they keep going, then well, just stay on the long side of this. No reason to be aggressive on the short side unless you have a pretty good little scalp up there. When they run out of gas on a little rally. So. I've been taking those. It's hard enough to get on the long side in a grinding trend to the upside. You just have to be in a good trade location and be able to stick with it. Other than that, if you're looking for quicker trades, hard rundowns, when they run into resistance area, stuff like that, small scalps is probably the better way to go. But if you can get on a long trade on weakness and sit in it, that's where your big payout lies. I mean, that's for sure. So looking to buy weakness against the 7180s, 7170s, 7160s for rotations up. You get down to that the 7145, the 35s, down to the 20s. I'm going to start rethinking the long side of the market. I would say look to buy against these. But if you get down at least past the low of Friday's low, the day session low 71.45, I would definitely take off any long bias since to go back range bound. I'm making them go back range bound a little bit more aggressively, depending on how things develop. But I would still, early on here, I'm going to keep it on and see if they kind of how the market reacts to stuff. Below that, the 71.45, definitely take off the long bias, go back range bound. Below the 20s, start thinking short side of the market, then they backed off a little bit too much for the long side to really get any traction anymore. On the way up, short setups against the 7200s and 7210s. That's the only thing we have. 7200 is nice and round number right up there. That's where they stalled on Friday. And right now we are kind of just staying in that range right up there and bumping up against it. If they can't extend past that 7200 range, then we are pretty much probably going to see them knock it down a little bit. But earnings is coming out as well, so you have a lot of cross currents going on this week. Earnings reports coming out after the close, before the open, and the Iranian situation is going to be producing headlines, and of course, we'll see what the fallout is on this assassination attempt. So. There we have it. That's how we get started. So nothing super exciting more than stay on the long side. I would initially look to buy against these three 7180s, 70s, 60s for rotations up. One short against that 7200. That's the only short I think has any bigger or has any good ledge to lean against. The overnight probed all the way up to 7210, but or 7208 maybe, but 7210 is the general area. So I would look for short against the first one here, not so much against the second one if they start trading up there. So, but then when the market looks like it is right now, it's like a grind to the upside like this. It's difficult to get on the long side. You kind of have to be aggressive on the entry, and then you have to be sitting in that for a while, and that's just uncomfortable, you know. Because eventually you get into something like that. You sit in this whole thing for like from 6 a.m. to like in an hour and a half, and suddenly you have one little rundown here to shake you out of the trade. You know, so it is not an easy thing to do. NASDAQ also is holding on to the gains pretty darn good. They moved pretty hard in the overnight. Friday was nothing but spectacular. They popped pretty good to the upside. Reverse retested the 140s, and then they ended up closing at the highs at this 27,440. So they are on fire. They're in price discovery territory. And you can see AVA is rocketing to the upside. Pretty good move to the upside on those. So I would look to buy weakness on the NASDAQ at this point against that 390s, 340s, 270s for rotations up. I would say below 270s, start thinking retracement trade for reverse retest of the 140s. But I will still look to buy against that 140 if they get down there. If they take out that level, the 140s, that's going to take us down here to that little ledge right there we had. Not a super strong ledge, but small ledge nonetheless. If that comes out, definitely start thinking retracement trade at that point. So we'll see. So we have some range to get long against for rotations up. And on the short side, the short setups against that 490, 500s, the 540s for rotations back down again. And again, not very aggressive on those short on the NASDAQ. And anything running up here, testing an edge quickly, could potentially be sold. And for a small trade, but I wouldn't look for big trades on the short side on either ES and NASDAQ. So you're looking at stuff like this. When they start running higher, you'll all have a counter rotation. They run up, they retest the prior rotation, they grind a little bit, rotate down. So that's when you have your opportunities for small counter rotation trades. But don't expect big trades out of them. If you get on a bigger trade, yeah, that would be good. But it's the bigger trades most likely comes from the long side. I would just be watching it a little bit carefully this morning, see if the overnight's going to hold on to the gains, or if they're going to knock it down hard in the day session. So we'll see how strong that move is if it materializes. So that's the ESN and NASDAQ. Start from the long side on both of these. Both are in price discovery to the upside. And then on the bond market, yes, nothing going on there. Just kind of range bound. You can see this. It's just sloppy range bound trading. They backed off the 114s a bit, so they're a little bit to the downside, but they're still very much just trading in the range. You can see capital flow here, right here at that lower end. And it looks like the volume is slowly drifting lower. I mean, we had a fair amount of volume up here at the 117s, but you can see how that volume is now moving lower. That's implying maybe lower prices and higher yields, at least for now. So I would be looking at the bond market maybe to challenge the 113s here in the not too distant future. If they don't, then they start trading higher, yields come back down. That would be great. But right now, it looks to me like the bond market is that's kind of range bound, slowly drifting to the downside. So you can see here on the long term, it's just a slow drift to the downside, and eventually we may get some lift. But right now, I would maybe favor the short side if anything, but I would just emphasize range bound trading. So I would look for short setups against the 114s, against the 114. I think that's off my edge. Against the 114s, 114.08s, 114.15, 16 rotations down. I look to buy against the 13.25s, 24.25s, 20s down to this 15.16s for rotations back up. Pretty straightforward and approach at this point. Watching Lloyd, if that 15.16 comes out on the downside, that would imply that we are definitely drifting lower. I would just probably stay on the short side at that point. But right now, range bound. Overall, if anything, I would favor the short side given the slow drift we've seen to the downside on the bonds. On the crypto side of things, a pretty good movement last night. It's just sitting here last night, time to trade this, and that's, man, silver and gold, and man, they're painful to trade because they you can see how they move. And I was in a trade right here on silver. I was long right there on this little move, and I was up here a good $7 or $8 in that trade. Then they ran it all the way down. He stopped me out and then some. And look at that rally which happened after that. It's like, oh gosh. Tried a short trade up here against the highs. Scratched that thing. They saved my ass there. I had one more trade here, a short trade which was shaking out. So I'm down $7 on silver. But the problem with silver on the futures is that each side is like $2 or something like that, 250. You get commission, so you end up in like a $4 or $5, well, almost a $5 commission on top of that each trade. So it's just a little bit unproportional. You may have a lot bigger trade outcome for it to be worthwhile. Gold is the same way. It's a little bit higher than that. It's like almost $6 around turn, five to $6 around turn. And again, it moves pretty good, but unless you get on a really big move, you're not going to make commissions. So I haven't taken a normal trade. I did a couple of trades on these guys as well, on the Ethereum and Bitcoin. These guys are moving. The volume of these guys are pretty good. 180,000 contracts traded on Bitcoin futures, 160 on the Ethereum futures. It feels almost like Ethereum moves a little bit like the ES and the Bitcoin a little bit like the NASDAQ. But they were so whippy. They were moving like crazy. I think I can maybe see if I show those trades so far. Yeah, I mean, you see here, I got tried to repair a trade here. It's one of the trades. So I get long on this guy, repair it down here, and they whip all the way down here, and then snap back right up here. So this is crazy stuff. This is really difficult to do anything about. So it's trying to figure out the rotation dynamics on that to get the right stop size. But if it's whippy like that, it's just difficult. You had to put your stop somewhere, and you don't want to you don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too conservative either. So we'll see. This I'm down $8 on that one. So anyway, so. That's the cryptos, whippy, but they were moving pretty darn good in the overnight. So I'm going to help myself to maybe try a couple of trades there. All right, back to the ES and the NASDAQ, and let's see where they're going to go. So they just kind of backed off the highs in the middle of their overnight range right now. I would say, as I said, starting off on the long side, let's see if they can hold on to these gains. And if they can't, well, we'll know. They'll start backing off some of these support areas. Alrighty, we'll wrap it there, guys. So good trading. I'll see you back at 11:30, and I'll see you later. All right, guys, later.